Welcome into the show. We have the weekly round of Mr. Michael Turpin, and I have my co-host, the man, the legend, Tyler Andors. Give people a little bit of something.
How's it going, everybody? I'm glad to be on, Mike. Thanks again for having me. And I am Reverend Sergeant Tyler Randall. I'm going by both of my titles for purely pomp and circumstance. And man, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in this world right now.
There is a lot going on, and just so the weekly rounders know, we're gonna have Tyler on a little bit more often. Tyler brings definitely a certain little spice to the show, and he definitely makes it more enjoyable. So we're gonna have him on a lot more often.
I'm committed, man. I'm enjoying the times that we've been on. I think we play off of each other really well, and yeah, I think
it's a good show.
we can get this going.
Our next step is to have a guest on for us, and then we're gonna see where that goes. But anyway, all right. So let's start tearing into this. So today we have the Hunter Biden. How can we not talk about it? Everyone else is. We're gonna throw our 2 cents in. Yeah. We have the latest Kamala Harris news. That'll be great. We're gonna talk a little bit about Michigan. Michigan beating Purdue and pulling in the Big Ten championship. All the Michigan fans, all the Ohio State fans that are anti-Michigan, will be tickling your ears a little bit. Also, one thing that is near and dear to my heart, and I am going to light it up on how I feel because I've seen it, and I've seen it happen to so many people. The California environmental laws, and they're making it harder for people to build homes. One of the biggest states that has the biggest homelessness population are making it harder for builders and harder for a small guy to build homes for people in the state that has the most homeless people. It just makes me so angry. So we got a lot to talk about. Tyler, you had some things on your agenda?
Yeah, if we did, I've got one story here, and if we have time at the end, I'd like to pitch a book that I just finished reading as well. Right. But let's jump into some Hunter Biden stuff. I mean, how can we not talk about it? It's been this elephant in the room, pun intended, elephant in the room for years now, for I don't know, 4 or 5 years. The fact that this guy he's jet setting, he's peddling his dad's influence. He gets caught. Everything's on video. All the records are there. His laptop comes out, and they tried to give it back to him, and the FBI tried to cover it up, and so did Twitter. And now that's where they're getting their tit in a pinch. Is that Twitter, now owned by Elon Musk, has gone private. And from the Epic Times, we have Tom Ozimek, Twitter staff to be grilled before Congress for censoring Hunter Biden laptop story, according to Representative Cormer. So the top Republican on the House Oversight Committee said that Twitter staff involved in suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story ahead of the 2020 presidential elections will face Congress and testify about their actions. Representative James Comer, Republican from Kentucky, the GOP ranking member of the committee, made the remarks on a Friday appearance in the Fox News after Twitter's own Elon Musk dropped part 1 of the so-called Twitter files, an expose into the inner workings of Twitter's censorship machine. Every employee, this is a quote, every employee at Twitter who is involved in suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story will have an opportunity to come before Congress and explain their actions to the American people, Comer told Sean Hannity. So, I think the very last part of this is Musk and an independent journalist, Matt Taibbi, on Friday unveiled a series of internal Twitter communications that give insight into steps taken by staff at the social media platform around suppressing the New York Times laptop story, which, by the way, in case you've been living in a hole, and just in case you think that this is not a big deal, in an exit poll, Democrats who were asked if they knew about this October surprise in October 11th, I think it was, something like that Hunter Biden had a laptop full of kiddie porn, videos of him doing drugs, emails between him and his dad, and emails with foreign companies, 10% for the big guy. Mm-hmm. If that would have swayed their opinion, they said, oh yeah, definitely. And when the New York Post, of all newspapers, actually puts forth a real journalistic effort to say, hey, this is kind of messed up, Twitter censors it and says, all you have to do is delete it and we'll put you back on. Garbage. Absolute Soviet style garbage. And most people that are middle of the road, maybe even vote Democrat. They're like, oh, I don't care. I don't want to stir the pot. I don't want this to be my whole life. Nobody wants to get involved in politics except for the leftists. The leftists, to them, they are 100% Marcuse. They're 100% Saul Alinsky. The personal is political. Everything in their lives is colored by their politics. And it forces us, the regular dudes who are just conservative and possibly even on the libertarian side, to go, hey, I'm not really a Republican, but you're forcing me into the arms of these people because you want to draw a line down the middle. And I think that's the most dangerous thing, because we're working guys. We live in the real world, and this stuff is far away from us. But how long until it reaches our front doors? That's what I want to know.
Here's the line, right? So we work and we try to make the best of what we can, and don't. There's the people during COVID, and I think COVID really, I learned a lot about people during COVID because they made, and these were the same people that were just, they didn't know much, but they knew they could read enough and are smart enough, because these people are very, very intelligent, but they're not street smart type people.
Smart. They're intelligent, but they're not smart.
Very, very, very smart people, but they just need an identity. And Donald Trump gave them an identity, right? And then COVID came, and COVID gave them an identity. They gave them the upper hand to say, you shouldn't be wearing a mask, or you should have it over your nose, and you should have 3 while you're jogging, and you couldn't argue with them. You couldn't kind of put them in their place, even though everyone with logic, the working people, knew really what was going on. But you know what? It's just easier at the moment. It's the hot topic. We're smarter than that. Let's put our mask on and get on with it. So now, fast forward a little bit, you have these people that are just in a lost identity crisis, and just trying to figure this out, right? And now, everything's coming to the surface, right? Everything that we said, this was not cool, 2 years ago. We had all the red flags were out. The red flags of the chick that you met at the bar that was pretty cool. All the red flags are starting to come out.
Once the beer goggles have taken off, yeah.
I just got out to my truck and it's been keyed, 3 times over, and I know it was her. The red flags are officially out. Anyway, enough with the euphemisms. So we can see it, right? And now all the information's coming out, and all the information, it's worse than we all expected. Like some of this stuff, it's funny because in the Veteran Network, we get the first hand stuff before it hits the news, right? Mm-hmm. I always hear or see something before it hits the news, right? When the shooter in Buffalo, right? He had the body cam footage. I got it on my phone when he was getting prosecuted from a buddy, at the FBI, right? Like, I'm like, I can't believe I got this. And just like you, I know guys, it's the Veteran Network. We're in all the places across the country, we get the information about what's his name? Paulie P. I got the information about him and what was going on with his DUI. And I got on Twitter once and I was like, yeah, I know what happened, and I quickly deleted it because I was like, you know what, I don't want to deal with the repercussions.
I remember, yeah. I mean, the group chat is lit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's there.
So anyway, back to my point, the Hunter Biden stuff in the Veteran Network, you hear that on the laptop, it's not just Hunter, it's not just the big man, it's the daughter, saying
it's his uncle, it's everybody. Yeah.
The big man is like showering with his teenage daughter and stuff.
Ugh.
It's the stuff that makes your stomach absolutely curl.
It's not like he's hiding it either. He's like,
exactly right.
And you're like, what the hell are you doing?
And like, listen, I get it. Donald Trump was not a polished guy. I get it. But people in politics since Kennedy use hyperbole to to start dialogue, right? They use hyperbole. Hyperbole, and my point is, I'll give you an example. So if you want a infrastructure bill, you'll say, you know what, the Republicans or Democrats, they haven't voted for a good bill to rebuild our bridges, and it's their fault. That's hyperbole, right? It's getting the conversation going by
it's
making
because there's garbage in the bill that you don't want to fund.
Exactly. And where Donald Trump pissed so many people off, and I myself don't agree with it, how he did it, but he would punch back at the hyperbole. So people would say, the Republicans don't do this and they don't do that. And Donald Trump would be like, false, you're an idiot. Just get the fuck out of here. I don't want to hear you,
Which I love personally. Me personally, because I was a grumpy old man before I turned 30. And to hear somebody say that, I'm like, F yeah, heck yeah. Do that. Really? Tell him to go away. I don't care, Republican or Democrat. I'd be like, he's weak. He's dumb. He's like, yes, that's his tactic, is to backbite and to like push back. But it works in the context of Trump because he's Teflon, the Teflon Don. Mm-hmm. Everything slides right off of him. And I think right now, if we're already just going to move in this direction in 2024, I think he's either like putting himself to be the villain to draw people out into running against him so that he can crush them. He's either setting a trap or he's conceding by becoming a villain. Let's not go into 2024. It's 2 years, but I just wanted to float that out there because we're going to talk about it when the time comes. And I want it on the record that I think that either he really doesn't want to do it or he's setting an elaborate trap politically for these other Republicans in a primary. Because I don't see with what we know now, I don't see Biden winning a primary against any other Democrat. Like Beto O'Rourke would beat him in a primary. That's my opinion. I think he's unelectable. Like the COVID thing gave him so much cover to be in his basement and to have rallies with 12 people while Trump was filling football stadiums and still does. It's there. Don't say, the Republicans are turning against him. He's still filling stadiums. Oh, yeah. You're an idiot if you think that he doesn't have juice because he's a kingmaker.
I think you're exactly right. Right. I think Trump, because when the second you say I'm running for president in such and such elections, you are audited. And all these people, side note, all these people that think that Donald Trump hasn't released his records, you're idiots, because every single year the president of the United States is audited. So the fact that we have this conversation all the time that we're not releasing his records, all his records were released. Dramatic pause for effect. What wasn't released was his private dealings that he had to stop, and he had to pull out as a majority shareholder in, which that's what has been collected recently by DOJ, because I know there will be
the upper district of New York or whatever the hell it is. It's their favorite place to go. And I will say honestly, you have a certain level of privacy that you're doing big business stuff like that on a level that you and I would never see. Some of it has to stay secret, otherwise other people will collude against you. Other people try to ride the wave, do some insider stuff, which that honestly, if you care about insider trading at all, you need to respect the privacy of big business guys to do that kind of business in back rooms. Otherwise, insider trading would be way more rampant than it already is, and it wouldn't even be worth it to merge. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm not going to get into it because I can't remember it off the top of my head, and it would take too long. But not every single business is allowed to become a monopoly. Okay, they shut them down all the time. So don't think that when I say big business, I'm like, Mr. Neocon, super Ayn Rand capitalist, because I'm not. I think that there are problems with Ayn Rand, but you can't just condemn somebody because they have, I don't know, private, you don't want to say secrets, because they have private dealings. You and I have private dealings in our own lives. So why should he not be able to? Nancy Pelosi, she's got some private dealings. I'll tell you that. So does Paul.
Oh yeah, disgustingly, it's crazy. So let's look at let's put a pin in Hunter Biden, because
Yeah.
I think
we've said what we can say, because it's still ongoing and it's still unfolding. So otherwise, we're just rehashing old stuff.
Absolutely. Let's get into. We have the Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris staffer. This is from Epic Times. This is a Daniel Chaitlin, another guy who does lots of really good things for Daily Wire. There's once again a turnover in the Kamala Harris office, claiming another top staffer. Communications Director Jamal Simmons is expected to depart next month after a roughly year in the role, according to Politico. According to Vice President Harris, it has been an honor and a privilege, Simmons said in a statement to the news outlet. I'm so thankful for the confidence she put in me, and I will miss the fantastic team more than anything. It's always funny. I've been in trouble and had to make statements to people before. It's usually what you focus on is what you are most frustrated with. So if you're coming out and saying how thankful you are and how great it was working with people, it's usually the exact opposite of exactly what you're saying, and you're trying to make that point as you're going out instead of going out guns blazing. That her whole entire, when she came out, and I gave her the benefit of the doubt, because if she fails, we fail as a country. When she came out and said 220 Americans died of COVID last year, I officially was done with her. So her and her Zen diagrams, I'm done with her. Her lying, her cheating, her everything.
I mean, as DJ Khaled would say about another Kamala Harris staffer leaving, another one and another one, another one. Because they're dropping like flies. Nobody wants to work with her because she's seemingly incompetent. And this is not coming from me. This is coming from Democrats. This is coming. I mean, at this point, we have Barack Obama openly mocking Joe Biden, not shaking his hand during events, like physically ignoring him, pulling his shoulder away, and then giving speeches where he's like, Uncle Joe, yeah, he might not be the brightest, but he's doing my will, as if he's God. It's as if Joe Biden is just a puppet, which he is. And Kamala Harris is just so dumb. And according to Democrats, that they're just like, oh God, we can't take Joe Biden out. It would be even worse. I would rather have Barack Obama with his hand up Joe Biden's ass than Kamala Harris even thinking for a second that she's not a puppet. You know what I'm saying? She might get big for her britches and decide, oh, I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Absolutely,
man. And what's funny is they're both right. Everybody's right in that scenario. Nobody's wrong. So that's why I was saying, like, even Beto O'Rourke would beat Joe Biden in a primary at this point, because they don't have anybody that you want to talk about not having a platform. The Democrats didn't have a platform in 2020. It was hate Trump.
Yeah.
It was hate Trump. And even now, what do they have? They don't even have COVID. They have what? Hate white people. That's what they have. They're like, hey, if you're a cis white, straight gendered man, white man, you're dead. You're done. You're evil. So I think you had a quote. What was that quote you had about love and hate?
So, if, and I don't know if this is a combination of everything I've ever heard or whatever. This is Mike Turpin wisdom. So if I'm quoting somebody, I'm sorry. I am. We'll just throw anonymous on this quote. But you can, where we're going in our country, in the United States, is you guys are gonna end up getting rid of all the things you hate, and in the process you're gonna lose all the things you love. There has to be balance. And we're gonna lose everything just because of the selfish kid in the corner that does not know how to get along with others, that wants to get rid of everything. You're going to lose everything that you hate. In the process, you're going to end up losing everything you love. And it's going to be
what do they say? They say eradicate hate. If you're focusing on destroying hate as a concept, you're not paying attention to what you're losing, what you're sacrificing to do that.
That's
it's like it's almost exactly like losing the sight of the forest for the trees, because we have this nebulous catch-all hate. Oh, no hate. You know what? Actually, and I can disprove this with just a little bit of Socratic logic by saying, what is hate? And they go, well, hate, when to quote a Supreme Court justice, they know it when you see it. And then I go, okay, well, if that's the way you're going to go, I hate pedophilia. And you're like, oh okay. You're like, yeah. So everybody hates that, right? Yeah. So why don't we just go and kill them all? Like, whoa, hey, well, you can't do that. Like, why not? I hate it. Yeah. If I hate something that's bad, I should be able to get rid of it. It's like, no, it's something that we all hate. Everybody hates it. Yeah. So why don't we just go murder them? Well, that's again that it doesn't take into account their rights, doesn't take into account humanity, dignity, things like that. No, okay. I'm not advocating for letting them live because I personally think that they don't deserve to live. But you can't just say, I hate that, let's get rid of that, because eventually, I was just watching the National Archives the other day. They have a cool YouTube channel where they have a whole bunch of old World War II and post-World War II era film reels that they used to play in movie theaters. And it was the one where there's the guy standing on the peach box, the peach crate, saying, yeah, he's like, the Negroes and the Jews and the Catholics, we need to get rid of these. These guys are not real Americans. We're Americans. And the one guy standing there going, yeah, that's pretty good. And the guy standing next to him is a Hungarian Jew talking to him. And he's like, why do you believe in this? He's like, well, he's right. We don't want to have jobs. And then he says, and the Freemasons. And he goes, hey, I'm a Mason. And he goes, see, you were about to agree with him, weren't you? And it's like 24 minutes long. And it goes through how the socialists in Germany, the National Socialists were like, yeah, we hate all these people. And everybody, they divide themselves up. And it shows like the story of 4 different Germans and the paths that they take and how they divide and conquer. It's divide and conquer. They're like, hatred. We need to eradicate hate, and we're going to carve up these little boxes of hatred. Okay, first we're going to start with white men. Then we're going to start with homophobic men and women. Then we're going to start with transphobic. Then we're going to start with, and as soon as you break these people up, you make them adversaries. And that's exactly what the National German Workers' Party, I don't want to say the name, the National German Workers' Party, the socialists in Germany in the 30s did. It's exactly what they did. And they just perfected it. And it's just a new skin on the same old idea. What say you?
So I'm going to talk about something, and it's related, but it's off topic.
Okay. So I might have gone down. No. Taken a left turn, but
I'm right there with you, Mr. Kanye West. So Mr. Yeah. Okay. So he's saying things that are.
That you don't want to agree with. They're saying things that I personally don't agree with. Exactly. And honestly, I think to a certain extent, he might be doing this to try to get out of contracts that are not advantageous to him. So Adidas dropped him right away. He wants Balenciaga to drop him, and then maybe he'll come out and be like, got you, because you guys have a morality clause or whatever. Mm-hmm. If that's not the case, then you know what? He's allowed to say what he needs to say. And I don't. Everybody was like, oh, you supported him then, didn't you? And it's like, no, I liked what he was saying about the entertainment industry and how corrupt it was, because he's literally in that industry. But then when he starts going down another road, I don't have to agree with everything a person says. I can say, yeah, screw you on that.
You said it perfectly.
Miss me with that shit.
And when the things that he said about the socialists, the German socialists of the 30s, it's just absolutely gut wrenching when you're physically seeing somebody going through a very mental tough time, and there's people around him not pulling on his thing, be like, dude, just shut up, man. Let's get you somewhere, and let's get you in to just see somebody and talk.
Nobody around him cares. Like he's with Nick Fuentes, who, by the way, in 2019, I was at Politicon in Nashville, right? And Charlie Kirk was speaking. And I was there with Nuance Bro from YouTube. I met Nuance Bro. He's a cool guy. We didn't interact other than I was like, hey, I love your channel. Let me get a selfie. Cool. What's up? And then I saw him run out of the room, and I was like, I'm going to see what's up. They were denying Nick Fuentes entrance into the 2019 Politicon at the behest of Charlie Kirk, because they said he would try to interrupt the speech. He said he wasn't going to do it. And I watched them all scuffle and talk about it for a minute. So I missed the Charlie Kirk speech, but I really don't care, because the guy he was arguing with was an idiot. But this is the level that this guy is at. He's such a weird. He has a term for it. It's called Groyper, which is like vaguely anti-Semitic, but not really. But also, I'm America first. Like he coined before. I think after Trump, he started using America first, and he's trying to like ride that wave. So that's where a lot of people are like, yeah, Trump's anti-Semitic. Look at Nick Fuentes. It's like, dude, this guy's like 24, 26, something like that, and. Yeah. He just found no matter how many times they banned him from the internet, he found an audience somewhere else, because banning somebody gives them an air of legitimacy to those who feel aggrieved. Yep. They say they wouldn't ban us if we weren't telling the truth. That's something I say. But then you're enabling somebody like that to say the same thing and get an air of respectability from it. Say they wouldn't ban us if we weren't right.
Yeah,
that's why sunlight. Like I think that's where you're going. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Let Kanye's words be seen, and that's where we're seeing like Alex Jones. Even Alex Jones was like, "You're on your own, buddy. Like I can't help you with this. I'm not going to delete it. I'm going to let people see it because everybody else deleted what he said."
Yeah, exactly.
That's another. I mean, Alex Jones is another perfect example. People delete what he really said, and then says, "Well, I heard he said this." No. Let their words ring. You could put if anybody who says Alex Jones said this, 100% they're lying. And you know how I know they're lying? Because they deleted his entire catalog off of Apple. How the heck have you seen it? You hate Alex Jones. You never watched his show. I'm sure you just remember it from the time you watched it. You're lying. You're a liar.
When I first got out of the military, I was very upset at the militarized industrial complex. So I enjoyed him as an entertainer. Some of the stuff I was like, man, frogs humping each other. Like, what are you talking about?
It turns out he was right about that, though. He was right. The environmental pollution it was turning frogs androgynous because they were pumping so much crap into the river. It's true. He just says it in a flamboyant way.
Yeah. He goes off in the rabbit hole of the rabbit hole of the rabbit hole
of the rabbit hole,
and you're just standing out like it's coming out anytime soon. So back to Kanye. He's lost it, and people are taking advantage of that. And Yianopoulos or whatever.
Milo Yiannopoulos,
there we go.
Who is Jewish? Who is ethnically Jewish?
He's Jewish. He's a Jewish gay white man in the United States, and
British, Greek, Jewish, gay.
He's kind of riding the yay train,
Oh, for sure. These guys are using him for sure.
And, like, dude, just like, what are you guys doing? And I had that post on Facebook a few weeks ago, and it was right after we lost another guy that hung himself in his garage, and I'm like, listen, if you need mental help, I get it. There's no excuse. And people were jumping on my line saying, this pisses me off because there's no excuse for you suffering with your mental health. There's especially if you're a veteran, there's every avenue. There's hotlines, 24/7 hotline. Anyway,
it's formal, it's informal. And by the way, if you're a veteran, period, the VA will subsidize your mental health treatment, even if you go to an outside vendor. I personally went to cognitive behavioral therapy, which is about $400 an hour, and I only paid $48 per session.
Yeah,
and I went for an entire year once every 2 weeks. So it adds up. I know it's not. I mean, $48. It was at 80, basically $100 a month. It might be a lot of money to you, but it's better. It's better than 800.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's other avenues. There's grants. There's friends. There's private. We used to take care of this kind of stuff. If I can roll into something real quick.
Hit it.
If we used to have avenues to take care of this before GoFundMe, before the internet, we had communities. We had real communities where if you were having a hard time, your friend came up to you and gave you an envelope full of money and you told them, no, I don't want it. And he said, shut the hell up and take the money. You pay me back when you can pay me back. Don't you worry about it. We're family. Uh-huh. That used to be at your church, your synagogue. That's what that used to be. Or your neighbor, your friend, you knew him for 20 years. Hey man, I know you're having trouble making your kids' tuition. Hey, here you go. Don't worry about it. That's what we used to have. Now the internet has kept us home, kept us away from people. Even churches keep digital. Just go digital. We're not interacting with our neighbors. We're not interacting even with our churches. We're not interacting with our society in general physically. The liturgy of society, as I would say, which is the going to places and talking to people physically. Uh-huh. It doesn't happen anymore because online shopping, online everything. So why is our media socialized? We should be socializing. So I think that's another big thing in this is that, hey, you need to get together with people. And that's why I always bring up Irreverent Warriors. You need to physically meet up with people. Veterans specifically, you need to physically meet up.
It needs that.
Because there's something different. You and I, we haven't seen each other in a while. We talk, even just this level of talking is better than text. Right? It's better. And then physically, if we sat in the same room, would be even more. Like that's basically where I'm going with this. And I think to tie this up with Kanye, he doesn't have anybody who's physically around him, like you said, whispering in his ear, saying, "Yo, dude, this guy's kind of like Mela." You went from like the Plaza Hotel to eating sushi in a suburban strip mall with Nick Fuentes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you doing, bro?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's the truth, man. It's the truth. And you know, I completely agree with you. To wrap it up, you know, the guy, I hope he gets help. I hope he
Me
gets help.
too.
I'm pretty sure, and people are taking advantage of him, and you know, to make them bigger and better. You know.
So we did Hunter Biden. We did Kamala Harris. You said you had something.
Yeah. So, you know, one thing that upsets me, and it's not in the red states; it's more in the blue states. So, me and my wife, we wanted to find a house here in the Western New York area where we live, and we put a few offers in on houses. So we go and we're putting offers in, you know, 2 to 5% more than the value of the home, you know, and we're getting outbid by people with cash offers, you
Yeah.
know, that are 10% over, and we're getting and our real estate agent was like, listen, you're not going to buy anything if you go to with a VA loan, because you know there's all these requirements and this
Yep.
and that. And I was
Yep.
my mind was like,
You would think that the VA loan itself would be kind of like a bulwark against the market bullying you out, redlining you out, if to use an apt description. But the same thing here in Nashville, dude. This is the hottest place to live in America right now.
mhm,
And if you're buying a house, asking price doesn't mean anything. What matters is how much cash somebody's coming, because the valuation is what the valuation is. If can you get a loan for that? Yeah,
mhm.
which is already inflated.
Oh
But
yeah.
can you cash over asking is the determination. 100%.
So here in New York, so there's zero supply, zero, right?
Mhm.
So my house appraises at about, you know, $500,000, right? So I absolutely know in my town I can sell my house for 600 to $650,000
Same,
all day long,
100%. Yeah.
because there is no other house in this area.
But
So
you better have another house to live in 30 days if you
that's the
sell.
problem. That
And
is
nobody
the
wants to
problem.
do a contingency. Nobody wants to go, "Oh, I got to wait for your deal to go through for my deal to go through."
Yeah.
Contingencies are dead right now.
Exactly. And so this whole way of thinking. So when we left Corpus Christi, we had a house and we sold it for, I don't know how much we sold it for. Anyway, we put it on the market on Friday of Memorial Day weekend. We had they had open house on Saturday. We had 3 offers on Sunday. We accepted it on Monday. You know,
Nice.
great situation. Same thing when we sold our house in San Antonio, right? Because you're competing with sellers, right?
Mhm.
You know, the buy, because it is a buyer's market, because there's nothing but houses available. Complete opposite direction in areas like Western New York, Central New York, California in general, right? Or Washington's, you know, in Washington or Oregon in some spots. Not the red part of Oregon that's turning into Idaho, but
That's right. I love it. Gotta
um,
love it. New Idaho.
so you have these absolute debacle of idiots making all of these stupid laws to make building a house so impossible. So here in New York, my father, he's a builder, and when he was building his house here in Western New York, the inspector would come and you're like, oh, that window needs, just moved out an extra 3 inches. Like, well, why? Well, that's just because the gray legged toad frog might fly into it and break a leg. You need to have it big enough for him to not break a leg. Like, so stuff that makes absolutely no sense, right? But that's just what has to happen. So it's where we'll close on a house in 30 days. Like if it's 45 days in Texas, Florida, or Tennessee, and you're closing on a house, if it's 45 days, it's because there's something wrong, you know?
Big time, dude. Houses
Big
close
time.
in 2 weeks here,
Oh
dude.
yeah, absolutely.
They'll do it with
Here,
no inspection. People will sign off on no inspection.
here in Western New York, you're looking at 90 days. So I put my paperwork in January, or not January, in February, to buy my house I live in now, and we didn't close until the second week in May.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, just an absolute mess. Anyway, so I am going to look at an article in Epic Times once again because they are great. Epic Times and Daily Wire. If you're not getting your information from Epic Times and Daily Wire, you're missing out.
I've been giving them money for years. I have my father-in-law. He was lamenting that I showed him the Epic Times. He was lamenting that there's no physical newspapers anymore. I was like, oh, Epic Times will send you one.
Mm-hmm.
I sent him the first few. I just changed my address to his address, and he gets it. He's like, I love it. It's just news. And even though they have Fox News on 24/7, which I lament, but at least he's reading Epic Times and going, huh, oh, this isn't even on that.
Yeah, exactly. Epic Times, Jamie Joseph, California's environmental laws make it harder to build homes. Litigator says.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at the camera at my audience or at our audience. I'm looking at you sarcastically. California is in a housing crisis and its environmental laws may be partially to blame.
Ooh. Partially.
A litigator with the libertarian law firm, the Pacific Legal Foundation, told Epic Times TV California Insider. Okay, so why in the world of worlds, and trust me, I am being facetious, why would a state with the highest homeless population make it harder to build homes? And don't say it's for the environment. Don't give me any of that bull crap. It's because it's not in the red states. And side note, when Joe Biden goes out and says, "Hey, you know what? The employment numbers look amazing," he's not saying I'm because the red states are hot and the blue states are cold. That's the only reason our country has red hot employment numbers every quarter.
He'll talk about employment, but he won't talk about unemployment juxtaposed to it, because employment is just 2020 crap, 2021 crap coming back.
Yeah, exactly. We shut the whole entire country down, and now you're just amazed that people are starting to go back to work after they ran out of all the money you gave them. Like, who's believing this?
This has been a problem in California for a long time. They call it like the not in my backyard law. Yeah. And it's been for a few years now, where it used to be if it was in like your neighborhood, then it stretched to your city, then it stretched to, you read about somebody building a house near Northern California, say, I think the redwoods are going to be in danger from this. And they go, okay, shut it down. No individual should have that much power to shut down commerce.
Absolutely.
And that's what it really is. And it's just a bunch of blue-haired cat mom, no kid having college graduates that are probably the biggest problem in this country right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna remember we were both on Fracking cruise, right? And this is I talk about this all the time. The people that have never been to a fracking site, have never looked at the chemistry of oil that comes out of the ground, the fluid that comes out of the ground, have no understanding of Darcy's law of how to build a well, right? Will tell how many people that just because you're fracking, you're putting acid in ground, you're contaminating ground level water. And
thanks a lot, Matt Damon, gosh, you dumb idiot. Which is not true, by the way. The place where they were living was so you think about that stupid Matt Damon documentary. I can't remember what it's called. Gasland.
There you go.
I'm gonna light my water on fire from fracking. Except since the 1800s, when that place was built, they are on a sulfur deposit, and the groundwater has a crap ton of sulfur in it. I don't know. By the way, I don't know if you've ever been to Western Louisiana. Same problem. They have a bunch of sulfur in the water. Have you ever taken a sulfur shower? Oh Lord, does it stink?
Yeah.
It's not even worth It's not even worth showering, in my opinion, because it just stays on you. Yeah. It's not necessarily unpotable, but it's just as unpleasant to smell. Now,
I've taken JP5 showers on a ship.
Ooh.
Everyone just walks around and smells like JP5, and it's just like, oh man, this is horrendous.
So you go to a frac. I had an experience with this. Me and my buddy. He was going to UNT. They're in University of North Texas, And we were at a bar, college bar, having a couple drinks, and there was these, undergrads, and they're like, "Oh my god, what do you guys do?" I was like, "I'm on a frack crew," and they're like, "Oh my god, do you love killing the environment?" Like, my friend and I we're both antagonistic in nature, and we're like, actually, it's the most environmentally friendly way to get energy, and they're like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "Well, I do it, so how do you know?
Yeah.
Do you even know what it takes?" And they're like, "Well, you pump chemicals." I was like, "Yeah, we pump chemicals into impermeable rock under extreme temperatures and pressures in which most of it just disappears." And they're like, what? And then like, you don't even understand
feet away from the water.
And you don't understand fluid dynamics. You don't understand like how much, what, oh, sorry.
So I had one of my wife's cousins' boyfriend. She had a baby with him, right? He's a plastic surgeon in Washington, D.C. So, and he's from Pakistan. So the dude, very, very smart individual.
No, intelligent, but not smart.
I just covered all the good. So he's also very pompous, and very flippant, and very pedantic, right?
Know it all, yeah.
And so it's just very tough talking to him. So he would always come to me and be like, "Oh, you do oil?" Like, yeah, I'm an oil guy. "Oh, you're killing the environment?" I'm like, dude, where do you want to start? I don't know where you want to start.
Wait.
And I would always, I just want to get this final thought in.
I'm sorry.
So your house is built on, and it does the electrical on a law, and that law is Ohm's law. Ohm's law. If you have an electrician that goes into your house and he's an idiot and he doesn't follow the laws, the engineering laws of Ohm's law, your house is eventually going to burn down. Like, the same concepts are with drilling fluid and preparing a well. If you don't use Darcy's law, you don't respect Darcy's law, you're going to fuck something up. You're going to have fluid, you're going to have bad chemical fluid going, and drilling fluid or completion fluid going into bad places that you don't want it to go. And that just wasn't good enough for him.
It's pressure counter pressure. That's all it is. It's the difference between pressures between liquids and solids. And if your casement is compromised, obviously your fluid's not going to go where it's intended to go. And if you're pushing it into impermeable rock, they call it impermeable for a reason, because fluid does not move through it. Mm-hmm. You have to literally set off explosives inside to create carrots in the impermeable rock that are temporary, by the way, that will close up under the pressure. And that's when you have your window to put proppant in them to hold them up. And that's what fracking is. So also, this plastic surgeon doesn't understand where plastic comes from.
Oh, I don't.
It's just it's so mind numbing. Like, Idiocracy is real, except if I was going to remake Idiocracy, the undertones would be way more socialistic, because obviously it's like Mike Judge, who by all accounts is kind of a lefty, I guess, is that he unintentionally makes a rebuke of social health care, unintentionally makes a rebuke of socialized education and entertainment. And it's like, hey, yeah, this is you. You dum-dum, you big old dum-dum. You just put a mirror up to your face, and maybe he's self-realized. I don't know. But even though, like, but by the way, he's still, I don't put him in the dumb category just as an offshoot, because he did, in a new episode of Beavis and Butthead, they go to college and they go to like a gender study class. And it's like, you guys have white privilege and this is BS. And you guys, and they're like, oh, holy shit, dude. Like, we just take what we want. Yeah. We'll just take what, and they go to the chow hall and they just start taking everything from everybody. Like, we have white privilege.
Awesome. Oh, that's so funny.
I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to get off. But no. What you're saying is, it rings true. It absolutely rings true. It's absolutely, like people should not have the individual ability to stop commerce because of their feelings and by the way, their uneducated opinions. Is that what we're trying to say?
And now we're getting to the point where people are so stubborn in being right that people don't have places to live. And
they're so stubbornly in being wrong. Actually, they're so stubborn. They're like, I don't care that I'm wrong. I want the law to tell me I'm right. And so we're going to have a bunch of wrong laws that stop people from doing what is right,
just to give somebody somewhere to live. And it's the have your cake and eat it too, mentality.
It's let them eat cake. It's let them eat cake is what it is.
and it's to the point where people just are suffering. So many people are suffering when we have the solutions right in front of us, And
That's very true.
I forget who it was. I think it was Elizabeth Warren, because she's always battling it with Musk. And she said, Musk said, okay, I'll release like $10 billion to beat world hunger. But
UNICEF, yeah,
but you have to show me the accounting of how it goes. And they're like,
they said Elon Musk could end world hunger if he just sold his Tesla stock, but no, he wants to buy Twitter. And he goes, okay, I have $9 billion in Tesla stock, which I will sell and give to UNICEF. But UNICEF has to tell me the account. It's like, by the way, $9 billion. I think America gives $23 billion in foreign aid just for that purpose every year. And it still hasn't solved world hunger. So what is $9 more billion on the fire? Totally. I don't know, man. That's a whole nother hour of talking right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Elon Musk alone is 2 hours of show.
Yeah, because there's a whole another faction of hey, I like what he's doing with Twitter, but also what he wants to do with Neuralink. It's not to save crippled people. It's to put a chip in your head so you can park your Tesla or turn on your TV. Like it's not altruistic at all. It's to make you a subscriber, literally, to your own life.
It's the truth,
which I don't like, and I think that's terrible and it's horrific.
So many people should not like it. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. He came out a few days ago with the Tesla Tesla tractor for the 18-wheeler. Did you see that? It's supposed to have a 500-mile range, and so I as somebody who had a Class A CDL, just like you did, at some point,
still do
working on that thing 24/7. It takes so much and that's just the diesel side.
The wear and tear, dude. The wear and tear is ridiculous.
The wear and tear just beats it to shit. These people that sniff their own farts, they've never been on a back road with horrible conditions
and 100,000-pound silo for a Megatron. You know what I mean?
But it's all about those people wanting their cake and eat it too, and they swear they'd rather have all the things that they hate gone to spite
the things that they love. All the things that make their life comfortable.
It's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy.
Dude, we could talk about trucking late on another episode because I've got some great stories. I got some great trucking stories.
You know what we'll do? We'll have a trucker on from we'll have a trucker on and we'll bite his ear a little bit because he's a good dude. So I got a bunch of them.
I think for the last 5 minutes or so, I think I want to pitch a book to everybody if I could.
Okay.
There's a book I just finished reading. It is by Eric Metaxas, a Greek Jewish gentleman. Very hard to spell, but if you could learn how to spell Metaxas, Eric Metaxas, I think he wrote it a few years ago. It's called "Is Atheism Dead?" And it's basically a ploy on the Time magazine 1966 cover of "Is God Dead?", which obviously they stole from Nietzsche's "God is Dead," which they completely misunderstood what Nietzsche was trying to say with that. But it's basically a science and archaeology lesson that goes through, hey, if God doesn't exist, then how come every single scientific endeavor proves the opposite? And you might think to yourself, well, science doesn't prove God exists. It's like, actually, it does. If you think about the kind of energy that comes from sunlight, how water is, just water itself. Did you know that water, when it freezes, it floats? It loses density when it gets to past 37 degrees, even though it shouldn't. Every other liquid doesn't. Why does it float? Well, if it didn't, ecosystems that are underwater would never survive. I mean, it's just little tiny things like that, and they all add up. And when Carl Sagan said, there's only 2 things that you need to support life on a planet, except now it's hundreds of thousands of things that all have to happen exactly the same, in perfect unison with one another, in only one way, or else life doesn't happen. Yeah. Like, it is so astronomical that you cannot. It takes a bigger leap of faith to not believe in God than it does to say, okay, there was fine tuning and this was created by a creator. You don't even have to see that it's the Christian God. You just have to admit that and he proves in the book just beating that he beats several dead horses until there's nothing left.
I have the book up in the logo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right there. Atheism and Dead.
And it's got the what's it called? The snake eating itself.
The snake eating its own tail. Yeah.
Yeah. I forget the name of. I forget. It's a. I'm gonna kick myself in the rear end for not knowing. It's a.
It is crazy though that atheism, and I said this when I was a much dumber young man. I used to say
Ouroboros.
It's
Ouroboros. It's a snake eating itself. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. It's so when I was a much dumber young man, I used to say atheism is just people who hate God, because the only thing they ever talk about is God. Isn't that funny? They don't believe in him, but that's the only thing they ever talk about is you shouldn't believe in God, otherwise you're dumb. And it's like, hey man, that's pretty weird. Like that you're just if you don't believe in him, then why do you know about him? It's like,
yeah,
you built your whole identity on this. So, and he kind of touches on that, but in a more intellectual way, and it kind of more well-rounded argument. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that when I was 23, but even I could pick up on the vibe from an atheist. Like I'm talking like a blue-haired cat mom, childless college graduate who hates God and wants you to hate God too, and doesn't want you to go to church and doesn't want you to know him. Doesn't want you to accept him. I'm not saying it has to be the Christian God. I'm just saying all gods. They're like, I am God, the God of the self, that the narcissism, the God is dead. That's what Nietzsche was saying, to replace ourselves with God. That's what he was saying, and it's coming true. How the heck? That was like what 500 years ago he said that or something like that. Mm-hmm. It is insane, but it just goes through science. Even Einstein had to admit he knew years before when he came up with his theory of relativity that, oh, wow, this kind of proves that God exists. And he didn't want to say it out loud until it was just indescribably clear that was the case. So he had to backtrack years later after becoming famous and after, getting all the accolades and everything like that. So it's a good book to read. I won't spoil any of it, but there's so much of the science portion in it that like you'll pause and go, is that true? And you'll go and Google it and you'll be like, whoa, wow.
Absolutely.
It is insane what cells do. It's insane what water does. Like they're miracles. And that's my personal opinion. And it's also happens to be backed up by science.
So I'm gonna read the definition of a Ouroboros.
Oh yeah, please. Go ahead.
A Ouroboros is often interpreted as a symbol for eternal cyclic renewal, or the circle of life, death and rebirth. The snake's skin symbolizes the transformation of souls. The snake biting its own tail is a fertility symbol in some religions. The tail is the phallic symbol, and the mouth is euconic or womb-like symbol. And it's just the meaning of life, right?
Right. That does make sense. And also that's really apropos for the theme of the book that atheists like to argue for a static universe, a static cycle. Going back to oil, there's peak oil. It's finite. It's like, no, there's just oil that we can get and oil that we don't have the technology to get yet. Mm-hmm. And all of the creatures on this earth that consume plant life, how come we haven't run out of plant life? Because there is a cycle. And it inadvertently disproves climate change as a theory completely. And he doesn't say that outright, but it does. It absolutely does.
It's always funny, the climate change people. You have a conversation with somebody that's extreme climate change. You say, okay, I'm with you. Answer me something. Obama was a climate change person, right? He was all about it. He bought a huge, like, how many $1 million mansion in
Martha's Vineyard.
In Martha's Vineyard.
On the ocean.
So he's expecting, and he's telling all of you guys, all of the people that just strive in following every single thing he says, to believe everything he says, but he bought a house and made this super property on Martha's Vineyard, which is at about almost basically sea level. So he's not expecting anything, but he's expecting you, and he wants you to believe, So
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I recommend everybody get it on Audible and as an audiobook. It's a great thing to listen to on the way to work. It's very easy to digest. It's just it'll blow your mind, and hopefully it'll make a believer out of you.
Absolutely, man. All right, I've hit everything except Michigan. What do you got?
I got nothing else. Let's go into Michigan.
Okay.
Purdue.
So I'm a fan of I'm a fan of Michigan, and this is why. I'm all about what the heck is his name? The coach for
Harbaugh.
Michigan. Yeah, Jimmy Harbaugh. So I've always been a fan. I was a fan of him whenever he played for the Colts. I just always loved his raw tenacity.
Niners, baby.
I loved him when he was a coach of the Niners, and it's good to see him finally beat Ohio. And they wrapped up the Big Ten championship this weekend, 43-22. Giving a shout out to Michigan and everything that is Michigan and Michigan. So
the Michigan University.
The Michigan University. Holy smokes! I tell you, we didn't solve any of the world's problems, but we definitely bitched and complained about enough of them.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe even like pave the way for somebody to find some solutions to it.
Amen. And if I hope somebody watched it and will at least pay attention to what we're saying, hear the dialogue, and look into something that we're saying, that if you didn't believe or didn't agree, that you looked in and you said, you know what, these guys, they might be two absolute idiots, but you know what, they're right about this thing, and I'm gonna actually look, and I'm gonna start using facts in my arguments instead of.
And if we got something wrong, put it down in the comments. We read the comments.
Please, I am all about checking myself, and if I say something wrong, throw it out there. I have some pretty thick skin. So, Tyler, you got any final thoughts, man?
Honestly, just I think I said everything I need to say. So just make sure you like and subscribe, because you never know when YouTube's going to stop you from letting you know when our videos come up. Like, subscribe, and share this with one person, just one person who might enjoy this. You know, maybe they'll watch 5 minutes of it. They'll say, no, that's not for me, but to give them the chance. Let's try to grow our audience a little bit and see if we can't grow the conversation. Comment. If we got something wrong, if you didn't like what we had to say, if you did like what we had to say something to us and we'll get back to you.
Amen. We started this channel August 1st. Okay. We are at 2,600 subscribers. So we must be doing something right. So that's just how it is. And because it's the Christmas season, make sure you drink your Ovaltine.
A commercial.
Oh man, we got a lot of stuff happening. Got a lot of stuff in the works. We got a sponsor with Balance of Nature coming out. We have a documentary coming out here in the next few weeks. That's pretty exciting. It's about a 25-minute documentary. It's pretty fun stuff. So, you know, once again, like, subscribe, hit the bell. You'll see everything coming out as soon as it comes out, just like Tyler said. So appreciate everyone for listening, paying attention, and putting up with us. Thanks again, and we're out.